This is DW News, live from Berlin. The far right on course for an historic victory in France as President Emmanuel Macron's election gamble backfires. Jubilation for Marine Le Pen's national rally projected to win the first round with more than a third of the vote. Macron's centrist coalition is pushed into third place behind the left. Le Pen says Macron's camp is all but wiped out and calls on voters to give her an absolute majority. I'm Ben Fazul and welcome to our special coverage of election night in France. The far-right national rally looks set to win the first round of parliamentary elections according to projected results. Supporters of Marine Le Pen's party celebrated the win, which could mean President Emmanuel Macron has to share power with the far-right. He called the ballot in response to the far-right's crushing victory in the European parliamentary elections. It was a high-stakes gamble that has not paid off for the president. His coalition seems set to come only third after the centre-left. Turnout in this first round has been a record high of 69%. That's the highest in decades. Let's look at the latest projected results from the French broadcaster TF1. And it looks like a sizable win for the far-right national rally with 33.5% in dark blue. That's around 15% up from the first round results in the 2022 election. The left-wing New Popular Front alliance in red here takes 28.5%, a small increase of about 3 points on 2 years ago. And in yellow, in third place, Emmanuel Macron's Together coalition at around 22%. That's a loss of nearly 4 points. The centre-right Republicans in light blue takes shy of 10%. That's down almost 2 percentage points on 2022 results. Those are the projected results as of 10 p.m. Paris time. DW correspondent Lisa Louis joins me from Paris. So the numbers show us a crushing defeat for Macron, wouldn't you say?
Well, absolutely, there's no way around that. He was hoping with this snap election to get an outright absolute majority in Parliament so that he could, continue his time in power and not resemble a lame duck government. But that's what's likely to happen in the best of all cases now. What we're seeing with these figures you just pointed out, the projections, is that it's rather likely that the far-right National Rally will become the biggest force in Parliament. That's what it looks like now. Obviously, there's still the second round of voting, and we are seeing that a record number of voting districts will see at least 2 or even 3 candidates get through to the second round of voting. That could be around 300 districts out of 577, and what's going to happen there remains to be seen. So there might be still a relative shift in power and the strength of the groups. But what's clear at this moment is that Macron is going to live a crushing defeat in these elections.
And tell me, what happens if the far right does get an absolute majority in the second round in a week from now?
Well, if they did get an absolute majority in the second round of voting, then President Macron would have to name a far-right National Rally Prime Minister. The National Rally has already said that that would be Jordan Bardella, 28-year-old Jordan Bardella, who has practically no professional experience, is this person who has been pushed to the top of the far-right party. He's become very popular on TikTok with short videos, but not for substance, that he has put forward during his speeches. That he would be the head of the government, and he would obviously push an anti-immigrant stance, the anti-immigrant stance that he's been talking about, and all these policies that the party wants to put in place. For example, what they call the national preference, basically that people with a dual nationality, French nationality and another nationality, wouldn't get access to what he calls strategic posts in government, for example, in the defence or the security sector. That hits a lot of people hard, very hard here in France. There are about 3.5 million people with dual nationality. Many of them were born in France, feel very French, and are now being told, no, you're not French enough.
Tell us a bit more about the speeches made by Marine Le Pen tonight from the National Rally and Jean-Luc Mélenchon from the New Popular Front, the left.
Well, Marine Le Pen was obviously appealing to voters to give the far-right National Rally an outright majority. As I said, there are lots of second rounds of voting coming up next week. We are seeing that between 60 and 80 people might get elected directly, many of them from the far-right National Rally. But in all the other districts, they will have to face a second round. So she was saying, give us the chance so that we can show that we can govern this country. Obviously, on the other side, the Nouveau Front Populaire, the new popular front led by, amongst others, Jean-Luc Mélenchon from the far left France and Bold party, they were saying, no, we don't want that to happen, and we're going to make sure that we can do what we can, that we will do what we can do to prevent that from happening. And that is, if we came third in the first round of voting, we will withdraw our candidates so that what he calls the Republican candidate, the candidate that reflects our values, will have a chance to win against the National Rally. Mind you, that's also what Gabriel Attal, the Prime Minister, just said. He said that we need to withdraw our candidates. You know, the government party and their allies will withdraw their candidates in the second round of voting if these candidates came third, to make sure that the far right will not win. We will see if voters will follow that suggestion. Obviously, the trust seems to be broken, at least between the president and the voters. Many voters don't believe in President Macron anymore here in France.
You said that there's a lot that can change in this next week, and that there's a lot at stake. Tell us just how much could change in this upcoming second round.
Well, it really depends if, you know, the different parties go through with their promise to withdraw the candidates that came third in the first round of voting. Just to explain, this is a two-round vote, but if you get at least 12.5% of registered voters, then you get through to the second round. So it's not necessarily a runoff between two candidates. And if that happens, then, you know, for example, if you've got 3 or 4 candidates in the second round of voting, candidate number 3 and also candidate number 4 might say, you know, my chances are actually quite slim, and I want the non-far-right National Rally candidate to win, so I'm going to, you know, withdraw from the race. And that's actually can be quite significant, because in past elections, for example, in regional elections over the past few years, on some occasions the far-right did get in the second round of voting, but then this, you know, what they used to call Republican front happened. So some parties withdrew from the race to make sure that the far-right rally, National Rally, would not win, and then the far-right did not win, at least in regional elections. So these parties tonight are hoping this will happen again. But as I said, it's not clear if many people will follow that suggestion, because it seems like the far-right National Rally really has become a party with widespread support. This is not just a protest vote. This is because voters seem to believe that they need a change in government, in power here, and they want, some of them at least, might want to give the far-right National Rally a chance to govern this country.
Lisa, what are you expecting? Anything else more tonight from Paris?
Well, we will get further results. For now, we have projections. As you said, we have certain results for certain areas, certain voting districts, but there are 577, so they're coming in bit by bit, and that actually, you know, puts the whole picture together. What's also going to happen is that there's actually gathering. There has been a gathering here in Paris. There might be other demonstrations across the country by people who want to express their opposition to the far-right National Rally. I've also seen a number of press communiques by rights groups, human rights groups, you know, immigrants' rights groups that are defending the rights of LGBTQI+ people, and they were saying, we really need to stop this from happening. We need to stop the far-right National Rally from getting to power, because they would really change thoroughly the fundamentals, the foundations of this country, and go against the very principle of, you know, as they call it, ouverture d'esprit, of a, living together and actually being open-minded. And that's what really is at stake here, a change in course, a change in the mindset. And, something that far-right National Rally government could change that profoundly for the coming years, especially if they then pave the way for 2027, when there's another presidential election. And obviously Marine Le Pen from the far right is hoping that she might get to power as a president by then.
Our correspondent in Paris, Lisa Louis, getting to the crux of some of the big issues here at stake in this snap French election. Thank you. Well, the National Rally Party leader, Jordan Bardella, is the 28-year-old protégé of its founder, Marine Le Pen. He would become Prime Minister if the party wins an absolute majority.
Fellow citizens of France, overseas and abroad, on this Sunday, June 30th, in the first round of the elections, the French citizens have answered the call of the polls with a record turnout in the last 40 years. They have fulfilled their responsibilities today and have honored our democracy, and I would like to thank them. 3 weeks after the European elections that led to those snap elections, they gave a clear verdict and confirmed a clear wish for change. The candidates of the National Rally and their allies came first and are going to come to the second round with a crushing majority. The French have given birth to a new hope, and I would like to thank them. And I would like to call them to remain mobilized in the last big effort next Sunday, July 7th. The vote that they are going to express next Sunday is going to be the most determining of the history of the Fifth Republic. Looking at the results, the presidential camp has been disowned and is not going to be able to win. And the extreme left party has high votes, which is very worrying. We have two choices ahead of us. On the one side, the alliance of the worst, of the new popular front behind Jean-Luc Mélenchon, that is going to take the country to disorder, riots and ruins of our economy. And on the other hand, the National Union that I have the honor to lead with Marine Le Pen, Éric Ciotti. And this alliance, this new alliance, is motivated by the national interest and is now the only rampart of patriots that want to have a France that wins with social institutions, security, fiscal fees, peace and labor. The extreme left is dangerous, with candidates that are unacceptable in their speech and openly propose to disarm the police, to open the way for waves of immigrants, and also step down from fighting Islamist extremists. They are insulting to our institutions, and Mr. Mélenchon and his friends are a grave danger and existential jeopardy for our nation. So tonight, I would like to call all French citizens that want to keep their liberties, that want a recovery for France, to help the National Rally to win in order to stop those that disrupt public order and trample our values. Next Sunday, we need to have the absolute majority. I want to be the Prime Minister of all the French citizens for every day, respect the positions and always care for the unity of the nation. I want to be the first Prime Minister that is there for every day, that is there for your purchasing power everywhere on the French territory, and is, of course, going to reform our migration policy. I want to be the Prime Minister of cohabitation that respects the office of the President and the Constitution, but with a political program for our French citizens. 7 days before this historic decision, and I hope that the second round is going to take place in an honest, peaceful climate, respecting democratic rules. To all the French citizens, I want to say that I will always be the guarantor of your rights, liberties, and of our Republican motto that unifies the French people under the promise of liberty, equality, and fraternity. It is time now to bring leaders to this country that understand you, that consider you, and that love you as much as they love our country. Next Sunday, we can win, we can prevail. Alternation is beginning. France and the Republic are going to prevail. Let's be unified. Let's work together, mobilize together for change. Long live France, long live the Republic.
Well, Thibaut Madelin is a French journalist for the daily Les Echos. Tell us, over a third of French voters voted for Le Pen's National Rally Party. Is this a vote in support of their policies or a protest vote against Macron?
Well, it's both, really. But you can tell it's getting more and more a vote of support. Surely there's a large party of the voters rejecting Macron and what he really personifies, some sort of an arrogant part of the elite. But also, you can say that people are voting for a party that's tried to normalize and to be more acceptable. You hear people telling they've voted for Rassemblement National 10 years ago or even 2 years ago. It was unthinkable for some of them. So there's not this sense of shame while voting Rassemblement National. And it's part of Marine Le Pen's strategy. We took power from her father 10 years ago, trying to polish all the asperities of the party, and also bring this young leader, Jordan Bardella, as a potential prime minister, 20 years old, TikTok affine. And I think what you see is that people think, well, we've tried everything. We've tried left, right, we've tried the center. Someone like Macron who tries to, overcome the divide between left and right. Why not try the Rassemblement National?
And a 28-year-old TikToker. Let's have a listen in to France's current Prime Minister, Gabriel Attal, first of all, addressing the nation, issuing a stark warning.
My fellow citizens, you have just expressed massively through your votes. I would like to thank you. I would like to thank all the local politicians and all the voting stations for their work. They mean democracy, and we owe them a lot. And I would also like to thank the candidates. Those of the Together for the Republic, more than 300, are going to be in the second round. Thank you to all the French citizens that have trusted us during the first round. The candidates were the flame and the energy of the fighters in them, no matter the circumstances, with one goal and only one goal: to make our values win for France, that is motivated with a Republican love for the Republic and a determination to stop inequalities and be totally committed to making progress for our country. We are sincerely committed to a fair fight, a necessary fight that needs to be fought. And tonight is not a night like any other. You know me, I like to speak frankly. We have learned our lesson tonight that the far right is close to being in power. And never in our history the Assembly has risked, like today, to be dominated by the far right. Our goal is clear: to stop the rally, to have an absolute majority in the second round, and to have a chance to govern our country with their terrible projects. And I am saying it with the strength that this moment calls for. Not one voice can go to the national rally. Under the current circumstances, we don't hesitate. In France, we will never hesitate. The French destiny makes it our moral obligation to do everything that we can to stop this from happening. My personal history and my political history make me tell you today that the far right has terrible projects for our country. They are going to damage our country and are going to be unhappiness and more unhappiness for our citizens that are suffering already. The Republic is going to be represented during the second round, and we want to make sure that we get the absolute majority. And, well, during the first round, we have done it already, and we are going to promise that we are going to step down if our parties are in the third place in favor of a candidate that defends the same Republican values as us. They are going to withdraw the candidates, and it's going to be a shame for them because they fought hard with their teams, but it is a responsible decision, and I think it's an honorable choice. The new Popular Front is not going to have the absolute majority. We have said it during the whole campaign that France unbowed is not a credible alternative. So the situation is clear. During the second round, we have to stop the far right from getting a majority. And we are going to ally with other Republican powers to let our values prevail. And the Republican candidates are going to defend your ideas and your values. And everywhere in France, our candidates that are in the second round are going to protect you. These last years, French citizens, you may have been disappointed or angry, but we have been working hard to advance and to protect the values of our republic, and we have to continue doing it. And we start tomorrow with the hundreds of candidates of Together for the Republic who are going to campaign to protect the French citizens as well as they can. You have spoken today, you have voted today, and today you are going to give life to our democracy, our most precious good. And we are going to fight together with our strengths, with all our strengths, together for the Republic. Vote for the Republic and vote for the candidates that defend the Republic. Thank you.
Prime Minister Gabriel Attal there, essentially calling on voters to do whatever it takes to keep the far right away from power. Thibaut, do you think there is a way for Macron's Ensemble party to still stay in power?
Yes, I guess there's a way. I mean, it's not the likeliest scenario, really, but there's a thin path which Macron is probably, and Gabriel Attal trying to take, is trying to bring a majority with its own movement, Ensemble, and take the more moderate people from the left-wing parties, convince them to vote for their candidates, maybe, and also with the more moderate members of Les Républicains. You know that the head of Les Républicains has joined the Rassemblement National, but the official rest of the party is still independent. So Macron will try to reach out to these two parts of the electorate, the centre-right and the centre-left parties.
What's this going to mean, though, looking ahead for Macron and his ability to govern?
Well, even if he kind of finds a way bringing a friendly majority, he's extremely weakened. And whoever will become a prime minister will be at least hostile, but anyway, more of a difficult person to govern with. So that will weaken not only Macron and his authority over the next 3 years of his mandate, but also the voice of France and the voice of France within the world at large.
So much at stake, Thibaut Madelin. Thank you very much for putting it all into perspective for us. So what does all this mean for the European Union? How could a pro-EU French president and a Eurosceptic prime minister work together? I put that question to Jack Parrock, DW's EU correspondent in Brussels.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big question. And frankly, they probably can't. I mean, that's the understanding. There have been cases in the past in France where there have been political differences between the Prime Minister and the President, but never so sharp as if it was a Jordan Bardella Prime Ministership and an Emmanuel Macron presidency. And this is it. I mean, just from a European perspective, Jordan Bardella is kind of well known. He's been an MEP, as has Marine Le Pen. They're known in these European circles. They know how to work in the European circles and how to stir up sort of sentiment and feeling within European politics. Emmanuel Macron is without doubt one of the most pro-EU leaders, let alone French leaders, that we've ever seen, and has been really trying to push for European integration, diametrically opposed to the sort of proposals of the National Rally. So it will be really difficult. It will snarl up not just French politics, which will make it very difficult, I think, for any laws to be passed. The President's office and the Parliament will really just be completely at odds. And that will have a knock-on effect in the European Union lawmaking as well, where there will be so much conflicted messaging coming out of France that actually a lot more onus will probably land on the Germans to lead. But we know that Olaf Scholz, the German Chancellor, has a very difficult sort of coalition going forward and struggles sometimes himself. So there will be probably a lack of leadership in the European Union from the two biggest economies if this does take place, if the Rassemblement do well and manage to win the Parliament next weekend.
DW's Jack Parrock, thanks for joining us from Brussels.